Hey guys, what's poppin'? It's Bekah back on the mic.
It's Bronte, guys.
You're so sweet when you do that.
Oh, thank you. We graduated.
We're RNs!
Guys, what a road. Let me tell you, if you're ever thinking about going to nursing school, it's so rewarding, but you're going to be counting down the days until you're done. We're just happy it's over. But we're excited to be back on the mic.
We are, and now that we can put a lot more time into the podcast, and we got some new things coming. Mm-hmm. We got a photo shoot.
I'm so excited. That's going to be awesome.
I'm excited. So we have another entry.
I'm excited for this entry, actually.
I feel like it relates to us.
It does.
Well, kind of.
Really well, I think.
Kind of.
Okay, let's just read it out. Dear Bekah and Bronte, I got into an argument with my friends about politics. My views are different from hers, and now she won't talk to me. Have you ever had this happen? What should I do? It doesn't help that I'm stubborn. We've been friends for 5 years, and I really miss her. Thanks, guys. Signed, Magic Skittles.
Magic Skittles.
Oh, I really like that, actually.
Aw, now we're getting into politics.
That's like a password that you, put a Magic Skittles.
Now I want some Skittles.
I know. What do you think? I mean,
Wait, she said she's been friends for...
5 years.
5 years, okay. So it's not just somebody you've been friends with a month, so I'm sure, the relationship has...
It's not like a conversation you get into in a Walmart or something like that.
I don't know. I think politics are very... I think people are really sensitive about politics, especially, this election or whatever.
Yeah.
But I think it all comes down to respect.
It does.
Knowing that we all have different opinions, because we voted differently.
And
we have different opinions. But what's funny is when we talk, we have some of the similar opinions.
Yeah, we have similar ideas, and I think we agree on some things.
Certain things.
But I think it's just a matter of, I think what gets blurred is listening to people's thought process, and people can have their own thought process. That's fine. But when you're blatantly disrespecting someone and saying your viewpoints are not right, then that's wrong. Because, it should never come down to a friendship ends because you guys think differently.
Yeah, no.
Mm-mm. It should never really be like that. You and I think differently, and we think similar on some things. But I hear you out, you hear me out. But I think that's what gets misconstrued in it all.
Yeah.
I've had people blatantly tell me oh, well, you're wrong. I'm like, why?
Yeah.
Because it also has to do with experience, too. What people experience in life and what they see.
That's true.
So, I mean, the biggest topic that we discussed was the immigrant, things. And my parents came from Europe. I mean, my whole family's from there. And that was a big topic of discussion these last couple of years.
With probably 90%,
But my viewpoint, because that's where my family comes from, is different from yours.
Yeah.
But that's just my example of, experience can turn your viewpoints a little bit on stuff.
Yeah.
But, when I hear people argue about it, and just kind of put people down about it, I'm like, no, hear them out. Engage in conversation. It was oh, you're a Democrat? I don't want to hear about it. It's just
yeah.
But what about you?
I think when I talk about politics, and I'm not anywhere near, updated that I should be. Mm-hmm. I think the only thing that frustrates me is not because you're Republican or Democrat, is if we get into a conversation, a respectful conversation, and then, you don't, some of my friends or, people I've talked to about it, because they're oh, let's talk to Bekah about it because she's really honest. Then I come with facts. And I feel when you're oh, I feel this type of way, but there's no facts about it. They're oh, I voted for this person. I'm okay, so why did you vote for that person? Mm-hmm. And you can't tell me why you voted for that person. It's just because everyone else voted. Then I'm okay, well, I don't, you didn't do research.
Fact versus feeling.
Facts versus feelings is very important when you're, at least this is what I think, is when you're voting Republican or Democrat. Just know your facts, do your research, know your history. History is huge because history repeats itself. Mm-hmm. But I don't, look down on somebody about it. But I won't have a conversation if you don't know why you voted for a person, because I'm okay, well, what's...
Right.
I just love that person. Mm-hmm. I'm you don't even know that person. What are you talking about?
Yeah, and I've been in conversations where it gets really nasty. Or it's good argumentative, like, you know, people get loud, but they're never turning it back around and being, like, a disrespectful person. Yeah. Like, it gets heated, like, you know, and it's funny, but at the end of the day, are you able to just take yourself away from that and, like, are we still friends? Like, I feel like some low blows happen, and somehow I don't know how the conversation turns. Like, you can have a respectable argument and conversation. Yeah. But I'm like, how did it turn into, like, below the belt blows? I'm like, why are we doing this?
But then I think people just like to argue about those things.
That's true.
It's probably not, they're not just like that in politics, they're probably like that in their life. Yes. They could argue about who took the parking spot first. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I think it's just personality. Because my personality, I'm very strong about what I believe. You know, I do a lot of research, you know, stuff like that. But I will also I'm not, like, with example, you voted for the person, so I was like, oh, I see your point of view. I can step back and see your point of view. You know, personally, I wish that, you know, Biden and Trump would come together right now. There should be no Democrat or Republican. We should just come together and see what's the best for the whole community. That's what I think. But, you know, it's not going to happen. But, like, that's what I think. Yeah. Because they both got okay views. You know what I mean? Like, Trump's not this horrible person and Biden's not this horrible person. You know?
Yeah. And, you know, I think it also stems way too far sometimes. Yeah. And media doesn't help.
Media, guys, is not your friends. They don't be telling the truth half the time.
Conspiracy theories, all of that. I mean, we can't get away from it. That's just our life. Yeah. But the turning point these last 4 years have changed people's viewpoints, made them see different things. And it's also been so stressful and scary. So, I mean, of course, like, you know, the heat rises and everything like that, and the amount of change that we've had to endure this last year. So of course, emotions are high. Yeah. But is it really worth losing a friendship over?
Of 5 years.
Of 5 years.
You know, and I think you need to give it some time. Let your, you know, sort your feelings out. Let the, you know, your friend, whether it's a guy or girl, sort their feelings out. And then just come together, you know, and just say, hey, like, you know, sorry about getting heated. You know, I really don't want this to come between us. Yeah. But then it's also like, are you fighting over politics and everything else? Or is it just politics that you guys are arguing? Because if you're constantly arguing, then maybe, you know.
Exactly.
You should fix something.
My one thing that pisses me off is, like, when people, like, prejudge you. It comes out of nowhere. Like, I'll be like, oh, like, a person's like, oh, you must be a Democrat, right? I'm like, what? Just by how I act, I'm like a Democrat or like a Republican? Like, you know, like, I hate that. That, like,
I think it's became a war instead of, you know.
It really gets under my skin. I hate that.
I don't think you look Democrat or Republican.
I'm like, how do I look Democrat or Republican? Like, I guess maybe how I talk and, like, how I reason with things, but when people are like, oh, yeah, of course you're a Democrat or something, I'm like, what does that have to... Like, you know. Yeah. But I feel like people just hone in on point of view way too much. But listen to their point of view. Yeah. Like, you know, you listen to me and you're like, yeah, like you said, why do you think that? Yeah. I'm like, okay, we've experienced this. Because I want to know
why you think that, or why, you know, your experience of what you've led to that. You know what I mean? Yeah. Because then maybe it could change my point of view. Or, like, if I'm talking to you about something, you'll be like, oh, I didn't know that. You know, let me do research for myself. Yep. You know what I mean?
I will admit, however, it does make you learn a lot about another person. I'm not saying in a bad way. Like, listening to their thought, it's like, like, I've had these discussions in relationships. Yep. And I'm like, sometimes it blows me away. I'm like, wait, do you really think this? But I'm not asking that because, like, I don't agree with that. I'm just surprised. Yeah. When it comes down to not which one would you choose, but it never really, like, came up in conversations before, so I'm really surprised. And I'm like, what? Like, it was just kind of, I know that was really broad, guys, but you know what I mean. Like, you learn a lot about people. I'm like, what?
You do.
But I never look at them like, okay, is that point of view making them, like, do I view them as a horrible person now? Or do I want to lose a friendship over it, you know? Yeah. Can you pull that away? Like, so I'm like, Magic Skittles, like, is it really worth losing a friendship over? You know, I know you're stubborn. We're both stubborn.
I'm the most stubborn person on this planet. We are so
stubborn. But at the end of the day, what's worth the energy? You know, do you really want to lose your friendship over this? Like, okay, blow off some steam. Don't talk to each other for a day or two. But, like...
come back together and be like, what led to this separation? You know what I mean? Like...
come up with terms like, how can you talk about this again? If you guys like talking about politics, don't ignore it. Yeah. But maybe make a rule. Don't cut people off when they're trying to express their feelings about something. You guys might actually come together about certain things. You know?
I feel like we come together about a lot. Like, we'll be like, oh, Bronte agrees that the sky's green, and I agree that it's pink. But then all of a sudden we start agreeing on, it's orange. I'm like, how did we get there?
Yeah, exactly. So
I think you'd be surprised when you get in conversations with people and you start thinking differently, but the goal is still the same. Mm-hmm. And I don't think people ever get to what's their goal. And I think politics, and religion and, sex or whatever is always a topic that people don't want to discuss, but should always be discussed because it is your opinion, it is your feelings. And, if I can't talk to you about politics, sexual things, whatever, why am I your friend? Why am I your girlfriend?
Yeah, it's like you're tiptoeing around it.
Yeah, and I don't want to tiptoe around and I don't want people tiptoeing around me.
Same. I
you
hate
know what
that.
I mean? I hate that. I hate it. My friends, sometimes will be like, oh, I didn't want to tell you. I'm like, why?
Yeah.
I've never judged one person. I'm like, I really don't care. If it doesn't have nothing to do with my son, I don't care.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't care what you're about to tell me.
Like, because people be like, oh, sorry, Bronte, we're talking about Republican things. I'm like, I am actually interested in hearing what you're talking about. Why do you think I would get offended?
Because they're prejudging you, thinking, oh, because Bronte's a Democrat. And I'm like, what does that matter?
Yeah, it doesn't matter at all. I'm like, actually, maybe you can change my mind on a couple of things. Like, I want to hear your thought process. Yeah. But you're already putting me in that category, and you're already putting up that wall.
Vote Democrat does not mean you're 100% Democrat.
I feel like sometimes I'm like, what? Sometimes I'm like, am I a Democrat?
You know what I mean?
I know I am, but like more central?
Just because you voted for Biden or whatever does not mean you agree 110% on every single thing that comes out of his mouth and his actions. Mm-hmm. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
And same with Republicans. Doesn't mean I like everything that Trump does and doesn't, you know what I mean? But
I wish it wasn't like this. Like, sometimes, like...
That's what I'm saying, especially during the corona. I just wish that Trump and Biden could come together and figure out, put their brains together and just come up with, like, the best plan for Americans.
And we've talked about this before. I think what we're losing is the good of the people.
Yeah.
Like, I think the end goal is the same. Of course, we don't want to see people go without their jobs or their businesses or their homes. But we're, like... It's like we're not coming together. We're not being a unit. We're not being the most powerful country in the world. We're just kind of losing.
Yeah.
We're losing it.
Well, and I think people need to remember that presidents are human. And just because you vote for a president does not mean that they make all the decisions. There is the House, there is the Senate, people. So just know your history, know your facts. Don't blame everything on the president, because it's not just the president's making 100% of the decisions. That's just a fact. Go look it up on YouTube. Or
on
history
YouTube.
Book. Honestly.
Or a history book.
So anyway, so that's just something I want to point out to you guys, especially the younger people coming up. I don't know what they're teaching in history now, but, it's not just the president. But also...
They're rewriting the history book right now.
They're human. They make mistakes. They don't say everything 100% right. They feel feelings just like us. They're not robots. You know what I mean? And I think people forget that. Just because Trump or Biden wins, loses, whatever, doesn't mean they have the magic answer. Nobody has the magic answer to fix 100% of the world's problems. That's only God's job. You know what I mean? Like, we're human over here. So...
It's just a hard time. I think this is changing the face of what we're going to see up in the future.
Yeah.
And you know what? Fun fact, CNN is on in my house all the time. I cannot... I hate talking about... Like, I don't hate talking about politics. I hate talking about it all the time.
All the time. Yeah, no.
Like, it's always in the news. Oh my God. Like, I have to, like, walk out of my living room sometimes. Not that we talk about it all the time, but it's a topic of conversation. Like, it's like, oh, so-and-so did this, so-and-so did this, so-and-so did this.
You never hear on the news, like, oh my gosh, this person saved this person's life. Like, it's always nasty, negative, racist, sexist, whatever the top. It's always just negative.
I want to know who beat the world record of baking the biggest cookie or making the biggest rubber band. I want something different.
I think the media controls people, guys.
Yeah, they do. They manipulate.
They are.
Like, you already know
Fox
what program.
News, whatever it is.
Yeah, you already know what program's
because that's what a lot of people watch is the news. Especially, that we're inside with the coronavirus. That's how we get the news now.
All we have to watch is sometimes the news.
I know. And the Hallmark movies are coming out, but because it's Christmas
thank
time.
God. Like, sometimes I just go upstairs and just, like, play YouTube videos and I pretend nothing's going on in the world.
I've been on the Vampire Diaries.
I need to get back into that.
Damien is so hot. I would call him Daddy.
You say you call him Daddy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's up, Daddy?
Any Vampire Diaries fans out there? I need to get
back into it.
If you're
listening,
take me.
Take me.
Just make me a vampire and take me.
Just bite me. Oh, he's Daddy right there.
See?
But anyway, we're getting off topic, and you got to get home because there's a snowstorm
It is the
right
biggest
now.
snowstorm in 2 years, actually.
Gale is here.
Gale is here, y'all. But the commitment is real.
So you gotta go home.
We gotta go home. Thank God for 4-wheel drive.
Yep. But I hope you guys work it out and figure out, your emotions and control them and be respectful. And
Yep. But we just want to remind you guys, thank you for all the support. I can't believe it's coming to the end of the year, actually. We're on 2021. I hope it's better. Like, please. But yeah, follow us on Instagram, Snapchat. What else we got?
Twitter. TikTok. That we just do fun videos on the TikTok.
Facebook.
Go follow us. Click, like.
Don't ever miss
follow,
a notification.
You know what I mean? Like, support us, guys, because I know we're getting a lot of downloads and we're getting a lot of listeners,
which is really cool.
So go check out our stuff and
and also mail in entries. slowlydyingrns@gmail.com. We keep it anonymous, and with our new photos coming, it'll be on the new website.
Yeah, we're gonna start working. Now that school's done,
we have all the time in the world.
We have way more time. And we're more awake and not so dead.
Yes. But guys, thank you so much. It's been fun. It's been real. And let's get out of this blizzard.
We'll see you next week. It's
All right,
Bekah and I'm popping off.
All right, guys. See you later. Bye.